What's up, players? Another day in paradise. I check up on YouTube and I see all these crazy ass videos coming up. $35,000 in debt. $34,000 in debt to Blizzard. What is going on here? So this is a good time to remind everybody that, since we are all, for the most part, mobile gamers here, that, come to this channel once in a while just to see how things are doing in the Underdark. We should talk about third-party sellers and the risk that you take for the perceived reward that you're going to get through these transactions. Because recently, Blizzard Diablo Immortal has just been smashed with this shit, and it's absolutely hilarious how Blizzard is choosing to deal with this. This is actually really funny to me because I don't really think this solves the Blizzard problem, right? Pretty much what's happening is if Blizzard finds out that you bought third-party Lapis and you didn't buy their shit fair and square, they're just going to put you in debt. But who cares? You never have to pay any of that debt. So you can get a maxed out Diablo account and then, owe them $35,000 and then just play free to play after that. That's really hilarious because it's not like they can actually come and get your money. Suck it, Blizzard. This is what happens when you make such a greedy effing system, and then this is how you have to bounce back from illegal whaling. And you can't even ban people because these are the people spending money on your platform. They're still spending money, and you know that if you ban them, they're just not going to play, so you're not going to get anything out of them. As far as I can tell, though, this is Blizzard's answer to this for now. I wonder if they're going to change this in the future, but let's take a step back and talk about how all of this third-party nonsense even started for me specifically. So, back in the day, and yeah, we will watch one of these videos just to get, the deets on it, but let me just go through and tell you guys my experience with third-party resellers. First and foremost, your boy Czar Savage from Mobile Gamers Unite has never third-partied a damn thing. Why? I've always felt like you're just risking your account. You're risking everything that you legitimately, paid for, pulled for, played through. So this all started back with Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. And the funny thing at the time was there was a player that was kind of like blowing up because he had a YouTube channel and he was like the biggest global whale, right? And he actually he bragged about it and all sorts of shit. And they were going to do some Comic-Con thing. And they were actually featuring him on one of the posters for Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. Like, oh, he's going to be there. And a couple weeks or a month before the Comic-Con thing or whatever the hell it was, they had a ban hammer go down. And this player was one of the players that got banned. That was fucking hilarious to me. Your featured player that you're putting up there on a podium for whatever, because he's so popular. Come to find out, he's been hacking your game the whole time, pretty much. Well, I don't want to call it hacking, but he's been buying through third-party sellers the whole time, which is maybe why he could afford to whale in your game, right? And of course, I really don't know what happened to that dude after that. Obviously, Square probably didn't want to promote him anymore because he's pretty much just encouraging other players to rip Square off, as far as Square is looking at it. So after that, you just didn't really hear shit from that guy anymore. At least I didn't. It's kind of funny. He's a jackass anyways. But here's how all this played. And this is how I have all my information on how this whole third-party cross-platform thing works, okay? I'll try to explain it to you guys real quick in case you were wondering. So I got into a fight with a Lapis reseller. I kept seeing him spam all his bullshit on how his stuff's guaranteed. Look, I have over 1,000 transactions. Look at this guy's account. It's fully decked out because, he went through me, and look at everything. And he would put screenshots up. he would, scratch out the player's name and their profile, but he would show you all the different crap he could get for you. And after I got into a fight with him, actually other Lapis resellers started talking to me, and they actually started explaining to me how the Lapis resale program works. How is it? Specifically, what's happening here with Blizzard, with this whole thing, this is over stolen credit cards. People were getting stolen credit cards. You pay them your good money, and they ring up a bunch of shit on that stolen credit card for you. And that's how you get that. They get cash out of the deal. You get your Diablo Immortal account upgraded with a stolen credit card. Okay? Now, people did this with Final Fantasy Brave Exvius if they could. That was like their number one thing, because if you're using a stolen credit card, all the profit is yours, right? Like every single penny of every single transaction you make literally goes into your pocket. That is not how all Lapis resellers were doing it. That was just the most shady way to do it. I had a couple of people that actually worked for Square Enix. This dude and his girlfriend. They were reselling Lapis, and they felt like they were doing it legally. They weren't stealing people's credit cards, okay? Here's what they were doing. So if you go to like Thailand, or just say like some second world country where they were trying to launch Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, they realized that in some of the poorer parts of the world, there's no fucking way in hell that anybody is gonna pay $500 a month to play a fucking phone game. That is only some shit you can get away with on the global market. Nobody else is going to buy into that, where a lot of people literally live off of $500 a month. That's all the money that they make. So choosing a phone game over literally your entire life, probably not going to work out that well for Square Enix. So what they decided to do in some of these countries, you could go to like the local 7-Eleven and they would have discount cards for Lapis. You buy these cards, and now you're getting the Lapis 50% off. And the Lapis was already cheaper to buy in the first place because you're buying it from Cambodia or wherever the hell they're selling it. So I guess a good example of this is it would break down to them getting twice as much Lapis for the same dollar. And on top of that, they could go to 7-Eleven. They could buy these discount cards that are also giving them another 50% discount. And one of the guys said he was literally going around town just buying as many stacks of these cards as he could, because that is the way that him and his girlfriend were doing it. Now, were they making 100% profit? No, right? If you sent them $100, it would still cost them like $60, $65 to load 3 times as much Lapis up on your account, but then they would get to keep $35. And in Cambodia and some of these places where people are living off of $500 a month, that's pretty damn good money, right? For sitting around on your ass, you can make hundreds of dollars a day. People were straight up eating off of this. And that was the more legitimate way of doing it. You're not using stolen credit cards. You're using legal, legitimate discount cards. So I found out about this from other resellers because I was fighting with this one guy. Long story short, what ended up happening was, big surprise, I was fucking right. And what I mean by that is Final Fantasy Brave Exvius came down with a ban hammer. And it was, and like I was telling this guy, yo, it's got to be pretty easy for them to see when you're buying something from a third party. And he's like, no, they can't see shit. And I'm like, dude, you are literally logged in Chicago somewhere, and an hour later, you log in Cambodia, Taiwan, and you load up your account with, a couple $100 worth of Lapis, and then within 10 minutes, you're back in Chicago, and you log in and play from there. How do you think they're not going to see this? Like, it would take a very, very simple algorithm to go through and scan the player population and to see if anybody did any of that. Cross-platform, whatever you want to call it. So, big surprise, they came down with the ban hammer. And this guy that talked so much shit, that made all these posts, that claimed he would pay everybody back every single penny, what do you guys think he did? He deleted his Facebook account instead of paying back, I don't know, probably $50,000. Who knows how much that guy made off of this shit? And who knows how he was doing it? He could have been doing it with stolen credit cards. He could have been doing it with the discount cards. I don't know how that guy did it. I just talked to other resellers and they explained to me exactly how this works, or at least how it did work back then, right? And yeah, the guy was like, well, I got my Facebook account linked to this. You think I want to get rid of my Facebook? And I'm like, yeah, I know plenty of people that would get rid of their Facebook for a couple $100. You've probably made $50,000. Oh no, you're gonna lose your Facebook and then you'll just make another one in 10 minutes. Right? So do not let them talk you into any of that. Do not let them tell you that there's no risk and that you're not going to get ripped off, because it would be stupid for them to rip you off, because then they would lose their social media that they can remake in 10 fucking minutes. That was just one of the tactics I saw them trying to use to talk people into this shit. So yeah, ban hammer came down, dude disappeared, of course, nobody got any of their money back, and even one of the premier whales in Final Fantasy Brave Exvius ended up getting banned, which I thought was absolutely effing hilarious. So that is the risk that you take from a third-party seller. Now I'm assuming they're applying these same strategies just to different games, and of course, the one strategy that's going to work automatically, whether there's discount cards or not, is the stolen credit card strategy. So of course that shit's going to pop up in Diablo Immortal. So let's see what they have to say about it. Here we go.
Another video that I was working on for this week, but the craziest story popped up that I just had to cover. So a few weeks ago, some Diablo Immortal players started noticing an influx of whales. In particular, in PvP, there was a flood of people coming in with super high resonance, and they were just totally dominating. It's no secret, Immortal is a very pay-to-win game. Whoever spends them...
By the way, shout out to Force Gaming. Just for this little video and explaining, got to give them props since we are watching their video.
Most money is going to be the strongest. That is basically how it is. What was notable here, though, was the fact that seemingly out of nowhere, the average resonance, or the power of these whales, was quickly spiking, which meant either people started spending way more money all of a sudden, or something else was going on. The complaints started piling up online, with some people claiming that these were illegitimate whales, especially since people were noticing there were a lot more third-party sites selling eternal orbs for very cheaply. While there was no way to prove this influx of whales were fake at the time, it has since turned out to be true. This is an absolutely crazy story that just gets crazier the deep.
What's even more crazy is Blizzard's solution to this, right? Because like I said, Brave Exvius went through and just banned these accounts and was like, okay, you want to play Brave Exvius now? You got to start a new account and you got to buy all your shit all over fair and square, which means that even if you played Final Fantasy Brave Exvius for a year straight and you spent thousands of dollars buying resources legitimately, as soon as you made one third-party transaction and they could prove it, which like I explained, they very easily could, you could lose your whole account over $100 or whatever the fuck it was. So, yeah, that's just keep that in mind, right? So now we have the same thing kind of happening in Diablo Immortal, but let's see what Diablo's answer to it is, because it's not, we're just going to delete your account and you have to make a new one. That's what's interesting about this.
You dig? We've got this pay-to-win phone game, stolen credit cards used to purchase orbs from fraudulent third-party sites, and then...
And again, the stolen credit cards is going to be the #1 way to go, because as I already explained that you have a stolen credit card, so you have a pool of infinite money. But what you need is clean, real money that you can have in your hand. So you're not using discount cards, you're using a stolen credit card. So if somebody sends you $100 to put on their account, that whole $100 goes into your pocket, right? And you can give them as much as you want off that credit card. It's not costing you anything because the card's stolen. So of course, that's going to be the most profitable way to do it, is straight up theft, unfortunately. And that's what it looks like is going on in Diablo Immortal, right? They just got bit by the stolen credit card bug.
Blizzard punishing these players by making it so that they can still access their account but can't play most of the game until they pay off a literal in-game orb debt, the equivalent of...
How fucking greedy is that? How fucking greedy is that? And how funny is that, right? Well, we can't delete these accounts because these are people that do spend money. So we'll just be getting rid of our player base. So instead of doing that, let's just put them in $35,000 worth of debt, and they'll have a negative orb count, and they can pay that debt off if they ever want their account back to normal. That's crazy to me. Leave me a comment. Let me know if it's worth it to do this, if you think, because like, what's to stop players right now to be like, okay, I'll just go get a $35,000 debt with Blizzard, and then I'll just play with that character. Right? I'll just play with that character, and I'll be free to play after that, right? After I unlock everything and get all these resources, I'll just be free to play after that. I don't know. Is that an option? Or is there really some feasible way that these people are going to actually want to pay off this $35,000 debt? I get it. Instead of just cutting players out, some players are going to just cut themselves out. They're going to be like, I'm not putting in 35 grand to rescue this account. But the way that Blizzard's looking at it is maybe, just maybe, some players will. Some players might pay off that 35 grand slowly just to get their account back if they love it so much. I think it's ludicrous. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment.
Of which, at least in one case that we know of up to $35,000. It's nuts. It is a crazy story. I'm going to dive into all of the nitty gritty details, but first let's get a quick word from today's sponsor.
And yo, everybody, I think he explained it pretty well, right? Look how many different videos there are. 100% crazy. So there's at least 3 videos in the past couple of days talking about this $34,000, $35,000 debt, $35,000 debt to Blizzard. These look like, yeah, they're different channels. So there's 3 channels covering this. So yeah. Since this is Mobile Gamers Unite, I figured we would talk about this, and I would just kind of remind people the dangers of messing with third-party anything. They can run a simple algorithm. They can find that you're being logged in somewhere halfway across the world, and you're getting loaded up with resources, and then an hour later, you're back in Chicago, baby. Like, does this guy know how to teleport? No, he just bought third party. That's the only way to explain it. And here's the thing, like, this whole this whole Brave Exvius thing happened over 10 years ago. You don't think that since then they haven't made better programs to keep track of how many players are pirating what? I'm sure just about every gacha game that's coming out right now, they already have some kind of algorithms built in after the whole Final Fantasy thing. And they're looking at it as a way to safeguard their investment. They don't want you buying discounted Lapis. They want you paying for it fair and square. They want you to pay the market value that they want to sell it for. And if you're not going to buy it for that, they don't want you to have it. The way that these companies looking at it is, we're leaving money on the table. If that guy wanted $1,000 worth of Lapis that bad, he would have eventually paid us the $1,000 for it. We shouldn't let him get that Lapis for $300 from somebody over there. We're leaving money on the table. And unfortunately, well, these gachas and games are just getting newer and better, and of course they're keeping track of this. So I'm just saying this as a blanketed statement. Be careful. It doesn't matter which game you're in. It doesn't matter if you're still playing Brave Exvius or if you're in Diablo Immortal. You know, Land Grisser, Last Claudia, all of that, any of that, all of those, any phone gotcha game, just be careful. And the whole thing that kept me away from it is, say I've been playing a game legally and I have like, I don't know, I've played this game a lot. Maybe I spent $300-400 on it. And then one time I get tempted. I spend $100 to get a bunch of Lapis, and bam, I just lost my account over that one transaction. They're not going to give me back the $400 that I legitimately spent. So that was kind of what kept me away from the whole third-party thing. But I did find out a lot about it, obviously by fighting with one of these people on Facebook a long time ago. It doesn't seem like the game has changed. It's still the same shit. And the number one resource for scalping Lapis, for reselling Lapis, is still going to be stolen credit cards. And if that bothers you, yeah, it probably should. You should want nothing to do with it. Right? Because eventually you're just going to end up losing your game and anything that you legitimately paid into it. I am curious to see how this is going to work out for Diablo. Are there a bunch of people that are going to go on right now and just get $35,000 in debt that they're never going to pay to Diablo? That would just be absolutely effing hilarious to me. But as far as this channel is concerned, this is just something that we should keep an eye out on and we should remember. And for anybody new to these games, well, hopefully you've learned anything from this video, and I've explained to you some of the ways that these people are generating fake Lapis to sell to you, discounted Lapis, whatever you want to call it. These are the ways in which this stuff is generated, and this is how you can get burned for it, and we see it time and time again. And you know, like I said, these games are getting better, and they want to safeguard their investment, those greedy bastards. So, you know, just be wary of that. Just know what you're doing, especially anytime you whip out a credit card or anything. Just know what you're doing, especially in these games. Be careful, everyone. I wouldn't want to see anybody get burned or lose their account. Especially if you were going to be featured in Comic-Con, until everyone found out that you weren't a real whale, you was pretending. Oh, that shit still cracks me up. Anyway, best of luck to everybody. Let's not end up like that poor fool. Later, folks. If I missed anything, please leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe throw a sub. Could support the channel a little bit. Hope you enjoyed my performance. I've always enjoyed your company. Later, YouTube.